guys? Just got back from the gym, and today I figured I'd give you an insight and a breakdown of everything performance-wise that's done to the Evo. This has been a long time coming, and I'm pretty much done with everything performance-related with this car, with the exception of maybe a standalone ECU in the near future. But I'm happy with the power, and I don't need any more power. This car is a blast. It's a perfect streetable race car, and I'm very pleased overall with how this car performs. To kind of give you an insight, if you haven't been following the build, this car is a 2.2 liter stroker, and it made, this is back in the summer in 90-degree weather, it made 660 something horsepower, 64 if I'm not mistaken, and this is on a Mustang dyno. So this car essentially is a 700 plus wheel horsepower on a dyno jet, which is crazy because I mean it's all-wheel drive and it just goes. So let's go ahead and give you a breakdown of all the performance parts done to this car. All right guys, so what I ended up doing with this car is I have the stock engine right over there in that box, and I decided that I wanted to pull the stock engine because in case I ever wanted to go back to stock, not to mention at some point Mitsubishi's gonna stop producing these things, so I figured I'd have a spare engine. So I went ahead and bought a brand new bare block from Mitsubishi, and I ended up putting a new rotating assembly in that. Pulled the old engine, it still has the stock pistons and everything in it. So I'm saving that, keeping that on ice just in case anything were to happen. But this is a brand new engine, has roughly about 2,000 miles. And like I stated before, it's a 2.2 liter stroker. It's actually, the displacement is roughly about a 2.14 if I'm not mistaken. And it's a stroker, and it has CB pistons. It has Manley Turbo Tough I-beams and a Manley billet crank, and all the bells and whistles, little things that you can think of, all listed on there. I'm not gonna bore you with that type of stuff, but it's a 2.2 and it's roughly about a 700 horsepower car. Moving on to the head. The head is semi-stock. It has the old school GSC S2 cams. It has the springs and retainers also from GSC. The head was ported on the intake side to match the ported intake manifold from Skunk 2. And then I also have the Kegley HLA in there, and I also have the AEM adjustable cam gear. And obviously this engine is a Myvec engine, so I can only do the exhaust cam. All right, moving on to ignition. This car obviously has the spooling up coil on plug system, nothing crazy. And that's basically it. Moving on to fueling. I have an AEM fuel rail with FIC 1650 cc injectors. These injectors are specifically made for E85. The internals of this are stainless steel, and they're actually more expensive than some of the bigger injectors. So I'm very pleased with the power. These perform just well, and I had no issues with them. Moving on to the fuel pressure regulator. This is an AEM fuel pressure regulator matched with a Marshall gauge, and all this is fed by a bulletproof performance double pumper, and I was very happy and pleased with that company. They're great. Customer service was outstanding. I had literally zero complaints about it, and it performs just great, and it's not too loud either. Moving on to the transmission. This car has a pretty basic built trans from RRT Motorsports. I'll go ahead and post the specifics. Nothing too crazy. I believe it was a stage 1, and I don't really beat the crap out of this car like that. I am trying to hit it at the track a few times to kind of see what its full potential is, but I'm not gonna be launching this car like crazy. It was meant to be a street build, and one of the biggest things about the transmissions that I'm really happy about is the 411 final drive. The 411 final drive basically distributes the power evenly so that the gears are longer, and I am so happy with it because honestly, I'm going from a 6-speed to a 5-speed, and I was very worried that driving on the highway and stuff, doing 70, I'd be, 4,000 RPM, and that's something I didn't want. So I almost didn't go with the 411, but I'm telling you, I am very pleased with it. It may not be for you if you're just trying to be at the track and kind of rev high and all that stuff, but this is a stroker, so it doesn't rev as high as a 2.0. It's right in the middle. 2.2 is right in the middle, so you kind of get the best of both worlds, but you won't be able to rev as high as a 2.0. Some of those engines rev up to like 9,500. So very pleased with the 411 final drive. Moving on to the turbo. This is a Garrett GTX 3576R Gen 2. It's actually a relatively small turbo. It's only a 58 millimeter, and I'm more than pleased with this. It is a little bit laggy from the BBK Full that I originally had, but I didn't want a highway laggy turbo, so boost hits roughly at about, I want to say around 45 to 4,700. I'm pretty much in boost, pulling pretty hard, and I like it. It's a little bit laggy, but it's okay. I'm all right with it. Moving on to the manifold. This beautiful manifold is from Morrison Fabrications. The whole kit is, and it's a V-band setup. And it's, as you can clearly tell, it's recirculated. I do have the external wastegate, but it is recirculated. That is a Tile 44 millimeter MVR wastegate, and I matched it with the Tile turbo exhaust housing, and this is matched with an ETS 4-inch intake. Obviously I'm on speed density. I'm really happy with the setup. I'm really glad I didn't do anything, well, it was never an option, but the forward facing turbo kit, I don't really need all that. I like the old school setups. I think this is perfect. And yeah, I do have the Morrison Fab downpipe, and the rest of the catback is a Busher Racing Bullet small diameter SD. That's what it's called. And I love this exhaust. I do wish it was a little bit raspier. I may end up putting a resonator here in the near future. But that's basically it for the turbo kit. Moving on to the intercooler. This is an ETS 3.5 inch intercooler. I've had this on the car for roughly about almost 10 years actually. So shout out to ETS for making quality products. And the piping is ETS brushed stainless 2.5 inch piping all the way around. This is a Tile Q blow-off valve. I forgot the spring that I ended up going with, but I'll go ahead and display that for you guys because I did have to switch the spring after I did this setup, and that's all matched with a Skunk 2 throttle body. And I already told you guys I have the Skunk 2 ported manifold. Moving on to the radiator. This is a CSF slim radiator, and I absolutely love this thing. I had the stock one. There was nothing wrong with it. I still have it, but it just looked really crappy. It's plastic. It's already worn. It's like 15 plus years old. But I ended up going with the Mishimoto originally, and the Mishimoto, and I have a video for this, so check the link up above, but the Mishimoto ended up having the pipe that was over here for the stock setup, and it was way too close to the manifold for comfort. So I went ahead and switched to this, and I am so happy because not only does it look cleaner, but I have plenty of room down there. With the other setup, I had to trim a part of the fan, and then not to mention, like I stated, the hose was so close to the manifold. So that's basically it for bolt-ons. I'm not gonna cover any aesthetic stuff. This STM stuff doesn't really do much. I do have the torque solutions. It was originally a 4-piece, so it has that mount, the transmission mount. There's one in the rear and one underneath. I ended up swapping the underneath one because the car was just too rattly for my taste. So I went ahead and switched it, and I'm very happy with the outcome. So that's that. I obviously have an ETS small battery kit. This will be gone soon, so stay tuned for that video. I don't want to disclose too much, but moving on to suspension, I have the HKS Hypermax 3s. Now, HKS doesn't get the best reputation for performance. Is a lot. It's more like a vanity kind of brand. I'm not the biggest HKS fan, just because I had HKS everything in my Evo 5, and I wasn't too pleased with everything that I bought for it. But I will say HKS makes great coilovers. These things are monsters. Like, they take the abuse. I have a buddy that basically restores them and rebuilds them, and he doesn't, he can't speak highly enough about the quality that HKS puts into their coilovers. And then last but not least, I have a catch can hidden down there. It's an STM hidden catch can. Went ahead and chose that setup just because it's out of the way. I still have my ACD, so ideally I would have liked for it to be over here, but I still like having ACD. I didn't want to pull anything from the stock kind of setup for this car, so I went ahead and went with the STM transmission mounted catch can. And honestly, guys, that's basically everything on the car. It's not a crazy build. It's not a race car. It's supposed to be a street car. Obviously, I have a bunch of cosmetic stuff done to the car, but that's really everything. And you guys already saw the wheel and tire setups. Those tires are amazing. I'm so happy with them. And that's basically it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up this video. And yeah, I got a lot more content for you guys, so stay tuned for more. With the weather kind of warming up a little bit, I am going to be hitting the track again soon and hoping to hit mid to low 10s, honestly maybe even 9s, the way I'm trapping quarter mile, honestly. So really excited to get to experience this car all year round, but stay tuned for more content. I got a lot more in store, so take it easy, and I'm out. Peace.